All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the anatomy of an absolute stunner, a genuinely incredible upset that went down in the Dallas Stadium semifinal. We aren't just breaking down a football match today, we are taking a deep dive into the exact moment a modern football dynasty literally crumbled right before our eyes. We're going to look at the stats, the controversies, and all the raw human drama that unfolded when the defending champions met a rising global force. But before we get into the play-by-play, I want you to keep this one jarring question in the back of your mind. Was this a fair, evenly matched contest that just kind of slipped away? Or did the French national team, with all of its superstar talent, simply fail to show up when the lights were brightest? You know, it's a question that has completely divided fans and analysts, and the answer is actually hidden in the numbers and decisions we're about to explore.
Okay, let's dive into this. 2-0. That is the final, frankly shocking scoreline that sent absolute shockwaves across the globe. Spain 2, France 0. The defending World Cup champions, a squad that had made it to the last two World Cup finals, completely shut out and sent packing. Now, on paper, a 2-0 victory seems pretty straightforward, right? But as you'll see, the story behind those two goals is incredibly complex.
Section 1. The Fall of Champions.
Let's start with a quick breakdown to establish exactly how this heavyweight clash played out. The setting was July 14, 2026. Dallas Stadium down in Arlington, Texas. The atmosphere was absolutely electric. You have to imagine the intense Texas heat, tens of thousands of screaming fans, and the immense suffocating pressure of a World Cup semifinal. For the French squad, they were carrying the dream of making an unprecedented 3 consecutive finals. But out on that pitch, that dream rapidly turned into a nightmare. Let's trace exactly how it fell apart for France. Just 8 minutes into the game, Adrien Rabiot picks up a yellow card, and that sets a really tense, cautious tone for the French midfield right out of the gate. Then disaster strikes in the 22nd minute. Mikel Oyarzabal steps up and clinically converts a penalty for Spain. France desperately tries to rally, but in the 58th minute, Spain doubles down. Pedro Porro finishes this sleek, brilliantly executed 1-2 play. I mean, in under an hour of football, the defending champions found themselves in a hole they simply could not climb out of.
Section 2. The Statistical Disconnect.
Which brings us to the statistical evidence. How exactly does a team of France's caliber get completely neutralized? Well, it actually seems super counterintuitive at first glance. France dominated the ball. They held 51% of the possession compared to Spain's 49%. So they literally had the ball more than the team that ultimately beat them 2-0. How does that happen?
Well, just consider France's output. They were incredibly active. We're talking 487 passes with a highly impressive 86% accuracy. They won 7 corners, constantly testing that Spanish backline, forcing 4 offsides, and committing 11 fouls. This shows us a team that was heavily involved in build-up play, moving the ball efficiently and fighting physically. They were super active, but they were ultimately struggling to actually break through Spain's defensive structure.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where the French machine broke down. There was this massive, glaring disconnect in their final execution. France managed a total of 10 shots throughout the entire match, but out of those 10 attempts, only a meager 2 were actually on target. They could move the ball up the pitch just fine, but their finishing power had completely evaporated.
2. I really want to emphasize this hauntingly low number. Just 2 shots on target in a World Cup semifinal. It shows that France was utterly toothless in the final third of the pitch. While they were busy passing the ball around the perimeter, Spain was the exact opposite. Spain was completely clinical. They took their limited chances and buried them, totally exposing France's lack of a cutting edge on the night.
Section 3. The officiating controversy.
But the statistics don't tell the whole story. We also have to address the suspect circumstances that surrounded the match itself. Whenever a giant falls, the spotlight inevitably turns to the officials, and this match was absolutely no different. The man in the middle was Salvadoran referee Yvan Barton, and he quickly found himself under an intense microscope from fans and players alike. His handling of the match was riddled with highly debated decisions that left a lot of people questioning the fairness of the whole semifinal.
Let's move to and see how this builds chronologically, because it was a genuinely baffling sequence. Step 1, just 8 minutes in, an almost amateur mistake. Barton realizes he forgot his vanishing spray and literally has to halt a World Cup semifinal so a fourth official can run it out to him like a forgotten lunchbox. Step 2 is where the real anger lies. In the build-up to Spain's 22nd minute penalty, where Lucas Digne caught Lamine Yamal, social media just exploded with claims that Yamal had actually handled the ball first, a critical foul that was apparently missed. And step 3, later in the game,
Barton awards France a highly dangerous free kick, only to bizarrely overturn his own decision after a confusing consultation, which just led to mass confusion out on the pitch.
And the frustration wasn't just limited to the fans venting online. Consider this powerful quote from France's head coach Didier Deschamps. He asked the press point blank, "Was the referee up to the task?" It is incredibly rare for a manager of Deschamps' pedigree to so openly question the officiating standard for such a massive, high-stakes game. So whether you agree with the calls or not, it really highlights the intense feelings of grievance brewing within the French camp.
Section 4. The global reaction.
Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer contrast in raw human emotion at the final whistle. The fallout was visceral. On one side, you have the French captain, Kylian Mbappé. The cameras captured his utterly dejected, frustrated reaction as Spain's second goal went in, and those images instantly went viral. He was literally the face of a shattered dream. On the exact opposite end of the emotional spectrum, you have Spain's goal scorer, Pedro Porro. After scoring, he broke down in a tearful, ecstatic celebration, dedicating his crucial goal to his infant son who was back home, suffering from a fever. It's just this beautiful, heartbreaking juxtaposition of triumph and defeat.
Off the pitch, however, the reaction took a much darker turn. Riots erupted across several French cities in the immediate aftermath of the loss. Furious fans poured into the streets to violently protest not just the 2-0 defeat, but the perceived injustices of the refereeing. It was a volatile, real-world mourning of a nation that suddenly realized their dominant era and their dream of 3 consecutive finals had just vanished in the Texas heat.
Section 5. End of an era.
Which brings us to the massive geopolitical scale and global ramifications of this match. So the crucial point is that this wasn't just a single game of football, it was a seismic paradigm shift for the entire sport. First off, Spain advances to their first World Cup final since 2010, returning to the absolute pinnacle of global football after a 16-year wait. Second, the mighty defending champions are officially eliminated, completely clearing the throne. And finally, in perhaps the biggest shift of all, this defeat marks the abrupt end of Didier Deschamps' incredible 14-year tenure as France's head coach. A golden era of French football has officially closed its doors.
So, the champions have fallen. The stats reveal a team that dominated the ball but totally lost the war, while controversy will forever cast a shadow over the final result. But as the dust settles, we are left looking forward to the grand finale. Can this clinical, incredibly resilient Spanish side win it all in New Jersey? That remains to be seen. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you want to stay up to date on all the intricate details as we head toward the final, make sure you subscribe to Dark Dossier. Catch you next time.